Hi, so in this video it's going to be more of a discussion piece because I've been reintroduced to Games Workshop stores in the last week, and it generated a few thoughts in my mind. Some of them feeling a little bit sorry for, the company has found itself, I think, in a position where it has to go against perceived wisdom of retail, but at the same time they don't help themselves out in certain areas as well. So with Games Workshop stores, I've had a little bit of a story time in terms of how I grew up. So I grew up in a town called Doncaster. Doncaster, it's a large town. It's really big. It really ought to be a city. It's much bigger than most other cities, but it's a town. And there was no Games Workshop store in Doncaster while I was growing up. There is now. But while I was growing up, there was not. Which means that I was never going to be introduced to the Games Workshop hobby unless it was through other people or by another device that happened during the 80s. But I did get into it in a very weird way because something came out called Hero Quest, which was something made in conjunction with Games Workshop by MB Games. And a friend of mine had it and we played that and we got into Hero Quest. Later on, I saw a cheap copy of Advanced Hero Quest and I got that, and that helped me get into the hobby because with Hero Quest, everything was just included in the box set. Okay, there were expansions as well that you got, but you got these in like normal toy stores. You didn't have to go to a Games Workshop, but it was all self-enclosed. There was no, like there often is with games such as, say, Kill Team or Underworlds or whatever, okay, here's the box set. Yeah, you can play it with this. Or you could get some other things from our collection and add that into it. Didn't really get that with Hero Quest. But you did with Advanced Hero Quest. Advanced Hero Quest very much led to that. And then what came after, which was, the best version of any of these types of games that they ever came up with, Warhammer Quest, which was absolutely fantastic. And that also, although you didn't need that many models, you could use models from all sorts of areas of their collection. But before Warhammer Quest, when I just had Advanced Hero Quest, I went to a Games Workshop store in Newcastle. It was quite a large store. Large store, when I mean a large store, I mean multiple gaming tables where you would have people playing games. And that's a very good way to introduce someone to the hobby. And I think that's what the Games Workshop stores are needed. We're living in a time now where high street shops are really struggling. I went through... Where I am now, I live in a town called Scunthorpe, which is not actually that far from Doncaster. Doncaster has its own store now. But where I now live doesn't. It's like I keep moving to places that don't have their own store. Well, twice in my life. But there are several towns within driving distance that I could go to. So from my point of view, so I could go to Doncaster, which is where I grew up. There's a store there. But I haven't lived in Doncaster for like over 20 years. Well, no, actually, it's about 20 years. Don't know the place very well anymore. There's Hull, which is a city to the north of me, but that's across, I don't know Hull at all, and also it's across a toll bridge. Or there's Grimsby, which is a town I've lived in for quite a while past, so I know that place quite well. So I went to Grimsby last Saturday because they had a promotion. They'd opened up their 500th store nationally. Internationally. I can't remember where it is. It's not in this country. But anyway, and they did a promotion where you could go in and you could buy a limited edition model. And you had a choice between the one I got, which was a Nighthawk model. I say a choice, you could get one of each if you wanted. Or there was a Space Marine model, but as I don't really play 40k, and if I do play 40k, that might be a project for next year. It won't be Space Marine, so I didn't get that. And they're quite expensive. For one model for £20, quite expensive. But you understand why. It's limited edition. And so, to make the money back off it, they have to charge quite a lot. So I got this. I was actually quite disappointed. Now, it's not the only promotion. They've done a similar promotion when stores have got to their anniversary date. There was another, this is a Nighthaunt model. And there was another Nighthaunt model that you could get, which someone very kindly got for me when they went to, actually, Hull, when it had its little anniversary. And it's a good way to get people into the stores, because it's very easy at the moment for people to just get stuff mail orders, particularly players like myself. Now, players like myself, so first of all, a decent amount of disposable income. I can get, I can spend a fair bit at any one time. I don't have to get like a small kit now and then. I can just say, okay, I want to get this army. I'll get this 1,000 points worth of stuff all in one go, so I can assemble it all, undercoat it all, paint it all in my own time, but at whatever rate. So I don't need to go into a store regularly. In fact, I don't need to go to a store at all. I can mail order. If I'm going to mail order it and buy that much at once, it's easier to mail order than it is to try and carry it. I mean, I could just go every week and buy one set, but there isn't one near me. But yeah, so with high street shops just in general suffering at the moment, because they're all suffering from the same thing, which is that we can buy a lot of these products online. It's as cheap or cheaper, and we get them delivered directly to us. We don't have to mess about with parking, stuff like that. Because my experience of Games Workshop stores, there's 3 types of Games Workshop store I have been in. First of all, so what you can see in the major background here is Warhammer World. This is the one type, and it's the one and only type. It is totally unique in the world because this is the headquarters of Games Workshop. It's in a city called Nottingham in the UK, and it's huge. And it is unlike other Games Workshop stores in that, 1, it's massive. 2, okay, this is set up for an event, but there's lots of battle tables there. You don't have to go there on a games night and go, oh, is there going to be a table free? If you've got someone to play against, there will be a table free for you. There's the store there and everything like that. Now, when I used to be in the hobby over 10 years ago, it would even be a great place to say, okay, I want this little bit, and you could put your order in and get it the same day as well. That doesn't really happen anymore. They don't do that. So that's actually a slightly annoying thing when I came back to it. But its own parking. You don't have to try and find parking in the middle of the city or the town. It's got loads of parking there. So it's even got its own bar. Totally unique. Then you've got the next level from that, which is a Games Workshop that you might expect to find in a city, a large city, where there's a decent chance, it's not exclusively the case, but there's a decent chance that there'll be a fair size. It'll be quite large, and it will have its own it'll have multiple gaming tables where you can have people playing. Now, where the first one of these stores I really saw was in Newcastle, as I say, but the first really big one I ever saw was when I went to university in Manchester. Now, at the time, I was still only playing like the Advanced Hero Quest stuff. I wasn't into the bigger games or the stuff for which you specifically had to go to Games Workshop to get the things. But someone at university got me into it, and very easy for them to get into it because there's a big store in Manchester, or there was. And I don't know whether it's been rebuilt. It was blown up. But it was, when I went into it, and there was tables all over the place and lots of people playing on it. An ideal way for someone to get into the hobby. So quite easy, I would think, with a store like that, for you to be able to get people into the hobby, because there'll be people playing. It's such a good place just to go and play the games. The store staff there, if there's someone coming in who's not sure about getting into the hobby, they can just get them, look at these people playing, and then they can talk them through various aspects of the hobby. And that's what's needed. The hobby can't realistically survive just being mail order, because how do you get people into the hobby? Because you need to introduce new players into a ready-made community of players. You can't just get them into it. Maybe if they're interested in the artistic side of it, just painting models, okay, because if they're already an artist, they may well have their own brushes and some paints that are suitable and stuff like that. You just need to sell them a model, and they can start that way. But if they're interested in playing, they need people to play against. And also the initial outlay, when I returned back into the hobby, the initial outlay for me, okay, was more than you would necessarily have to do. But the paints are not cheap. The brushes, okay, I didn't get the brushes from Games Workshop, but you still need brushes. You need an area to be able to paint. You need the modelling equipment as well, the basics at least, clippers and glues to be able to build the models. Something to undercoat them, some spray paint somewhere to be able to do that. It's quite involved, and one person doing it, there's not going to be enough new people coming to the hobby if they basically had to do it on their own, relying on, mail order. So there needs to be a store that can break you into it gently. But there must be so few customers there. That's the problem. I mean, I went to this 500th store event. That was the first time I've gone into a Games Workshop store in like over 10 years. It was actually, I have to say, a little bit disappointed on the promotion side of it. I'll get this out of the way now. So these are the 2 special edition they're both Nighthaunt models, which for me, I mean, I thought it was strange doing both Nighthaunt models. I'd have maybe just done one and one from a different type of army, but at the same time, Nighthaunts, are a new thing this year, I suppose. And I have a Nighthaunt army, so it works well for me. This guy, came from the anniversary one, so you needed to go to a store when that store was having its anniversary, was great because it comes with its own little rules. It's an extra character. It's an extra hero model. You can see it's got his own name there, Darakar. He's a type of Guardian of Souls, but with his own rules, which you don't get in the Nighthaunt book. It's all fantastic. It's got lots of variants as well that you can make of it. You could actually make it into a Guardian of Souls from the book with the extra weapon variations. So part of me was initially thinking it's a bit of a shame that that's not the one you can just buy in the stores, because you can make it into all sorts of things. But then I also remembered that the Guardian of Souls itself is not available in stores anyway. I have one model because it came with the Soul Wars set. At some point you would think they're going to bring one out that will have those variants, so that should be okay. But the Mortality Glass, as opposed to the Nightmare Lantern, has its own rules, and this character has its own rules, so that's great. So then, but someone got that for me. I was thinking, because I wasn't able to get down there anyway to that store, and I don't know when my way around, but I would have found it to get it. I wanted this, but I was working on that Saturday, so I couldn't. Then this model. Now I could get myself, because that was happening all stores simultaneously, which was last Saturday as I do this. And the same sort of thing. You look at the box and it says Garkor, Bladegeist Revenant. I thought, oh, it's a type of hero that's based on the Bladegeist Revenants, and because a lot of heroes a few heroes in Nighthaunt are based on something similar to it. So you've got Tomb Banshees, for example, which is a hero character based on Banshee. You've got like a Cairn Wraith. You could say, well, that's based on a Grimghast Reaper. So I just thought, oh, this is a hero character based on the Bladegeist Revenant. Little bit disappointed, I have to say, because it doesn't come with its own rules. The rules there are rules in here, but it's rules for just a normal Bladegeist Revenant. This is £20 being spent on a Bladegeist Revenant, except it's not. Because if you were playing, let's say, in a tournament where models should be WYSIWYG, you can't use this. Because Bladegeist Revenant is armed with a Great Tomb Blade, which he's got in this hand here. He's got a little sickle, like he wants to go gardening. And it looks cool. People were saying when I was criticising, oh, it looks cool. It does look cool. But does it look cooler than just a normal Bladegeist Revenant? No, it doesn't. It's just the same. And it's not a hero. It's just a model that technically you can't even use in a game. All you can do with this is assemble it, do a nice paint job on it. I might use it to attempt to do a nice paint job, which is not normally what I like to do. That's about it. Or it might end up in the bin of, not the literal bin, but the area where I just keep limited edition models. In fact, one thing I might want to do, I keep meaning to do this, I've collected a lot of limited edition models over the years. I've never assembled or painted any of them because my painting standard is very, very low, and it's not even like I like to get better with it. So I generally just leave them unsullied rather than ruin them. But some of them I've had to get rid of in the past and sold them. Some of them I think I still have. I need to go through at some point and find them. So maybe I'll do a video if I can find some of the old ones. But anyway, so yeah. So that was a little bit disappointing. But nonetheless, it got me to a store. So I went to the store. And this is the one you can see just above me, which is in Grimsby, which is, this is not how it looks now. This must have been taken a few years ago. I just got this off the internet. I didn't take a photo while I was outside it. But you can see inside it is quite small. Now, this is where I used to play games as well. When I was in the hobby over 10 years ago, there were two main locations I used to play games. One was in the store every Thursday night. I think it's still a Thursday. Every game night, I'd go down there. You won't be able to play the big games, though. That's the downside to it, the big 2,000-point games, because there were only realistically a couple of tables where you could play a game. They weren't big anyway. And, of course, you wanted a couple of people to be able to play on them each night and stuff like that. So you had to stick to shorter games, so 1,000, maybe 1,500 if there weren't that many there. And that was pretty much what you were limited to. But it had that, and I assume it still does, although I didn't have a good look round it when I was in. It didn't look to me like it looked to me like it had even less playing area for actual people to play the game. So I don't know how well attended their game nights can be if they've got less area for people to play on them. Because this is, of course, the third type of store, which is the most common, which is small. You can't just meet up with someone and go and play a game there because there might be other people playing at the same time. It'd be very difficult to do that. You can try, obviously, but it'd be much more difficult to do that. Parking is always going to be a problem because these places, and you know, when I started to get into the hobby at the time, remember there wasn't one in Doncaster, and you know, so I would go to other places, I go to other systems, stuff like that, and often what you would find about these stores, because they were quite small, they were usually out the way as well. They were usually not on the high street. They were usually tucked away down a side street somewhere. No parking, so you'd have to park in whatever the main area was in that town or something like that, which was usually a bit far away. Then you'd have to hunt these places out. You were not likely, and the Grimsby store is no different, you're not terribly likely to come across it. You might come across it. It's not as hideously out the way as some stores that I've seen, but it's not on the high street. It is just off the high street, though, to be fair. And yeah, so for the purpose of going past it, not an easy thing to get to necessarily, especially at the times it's open, because that's the other thing that caught me by surprise, because I went there a second time. So yesterday I happened to be in town anyway, and I thought I need some new paints and a box of Plague Marines, and I thought I'll go in and get them, but it was shut, and I looked at the time. It says, oh, it doesn't open till 12, and now that when I look at the opening times on it as well, and okay, it was never exactly open from 9 till 5 in the old days either, but when I look at the opening times now, it's like, okay, Saturday it's open 10 till 6. Well, that's probably the day they expect the most people in it, but it's only open on 4 of the days, so it's open 5 days a week. Now that suggests to me there's not a lot of staff. Now when I was at the store before, there were several staff. You're usually 2 on at any one time, but not always. Sometimes it was just 1, but usually 2, particularly at busier times. But it would certainly be open like 6 days a week, and but now 5 suggests to me that there's basically one person running it. Maybe there's a part-timer as well, but it suggests to me like basically one person. Certainly when I went last Saturday, now because I didn't think about it at the time, but I know now. So last Saturday, so first of all it's a Saturday, so presumably their busiest day. Secondly, there's a promotion going on, so they're going to expect a few people there, but there were only about half a dozen of us, I have to say, there when the store opened, but who knows how many came in later. And there was one guy there, which I thought, actually, yeah, when I think about it, on Saturdays there would definitely have been 2 on at any one time. So I went there, you know, yesterday thinking, oh, it's not open until 12. Well, there was still like an hour to go. It was like 11 o'clock when I was there, so I thought, I'm not waiting around. But then I noticed when I was walking past it as well, they have times when they're shut for lunch as well. I thought, well, that's really weird that it opens at 12 and has a time a bit later when it's going to have to shut for lunch. That really suggests there's only one person there. And I can understand, as I say, in the modern system where they have to have these stores. They don't have them in every town, like at the town I'm in, they don't have them. But they have to have them. It's the only way to be able to introduce new players into the hobby, realistically. But at the same time, this must be super expensive, and it's a luxury thing if other high street shops are not able to stay profitable. And that's why when I was going through Grimsby yesterday on my way to this store, I saw any number of other shops and shop areas just not there, just effectively boarded up. You know, and I was looking in the news, for example, in the UK, in the budget tomorrow, it's been reported the Chancellor is going to offer to slash like rates for stores to again try and regenerate the high street. Obviously, I mean, from that point of view, I think it's very difficult because people are just so used to getting things online, particularly from things like Amazon. So it's like not only can you get this thing delivered to you, but often cheaper than the high street with a lot of products. Games Workshop, a slight exception. And I do worry, I think to the future, is there going to be a situation where if the high street just does die just generally, is there going to be a problem with Games Workshop stores? Because Games Workshop store is not going to be able to survive as the lone shop on the high street. You know, if retail fundamentally changes in the next 10 or 20 years, if we're fighting a losing battle over trying to keep the high streets open, where's that going to leave Games Workshop? Because as I see it now, we're already in a situation where It looks like it can only afford minimal staff. Some towns don't even have a store, but they need to keep it going to get people in. But it's obviously there's not a lot of people going into them. And why would you? I would have only bought those things from that store yesterday because I was in the area and I couldn't pop in because it was short. I'll now probably get the mail order because I need them. The paint certainly I'm going to need quite soon. And I'm not going to make a 25-mile journey, especially like Saturday's the only time I could realistically do it, I suppose, or straight after work, because what I've noticed is even though they open later, they tend to stay open a little bit later. So in theory, I could go after work, but it's still quite a journey. And whichever time I go at, the times they're open, when I can get there, would be busy times in terms of traffic and potentially in terms of parking. So I'll just look at it from me personally and go, too much of a hassle. I think I will just mail order it. Which is disappointing. It's really disappointing. And I don't know, because with some high street shops, I just think to myself, the reason some of them have gone under is because they're not adapting. They need to adapt to the fact they're not going to be selling a load of their stuff through their stores. And they need, the stores need to be like effectively just a window shop almost, to introduce people to your brand and go from there, but effectively buying the goods online. I don't know what Games Workshop are going to do, because they don't even have a presence in every town. Where they don't have a presence, you're not likely to have as many players, because I think to my growing up, this is the sort of hobby I could well have been interested growing up, but there was virtually no chance of me getting into it. The only way you can ever get anyone into it is either someone you know is into it and they introduce you to it, or there's a store. And if there isn't either of those things, what chance have you realistically have got of getting into it? Because it's a hell of a lot of work. I mean, I'm just finding reintroducing myself into the hobby. It's a lot of work. I mean, difficult to get games, and there's an actual gaming club near me where I'm able to get the odd game now and then, but it's only like small games, like 1,000 points, and even then it's not every week. So this is why I've been sometimes thinking, well, maybe going to a store on their game night would be a good idea. But then I now look at this new store, I might still inquire anyway, and think to myself, but it's got less gaming facilities than it used to have. So if I go there over whatever their game night is, I think it's still Thursday, it's a journey for me. And is there even going to be a game at the end of it there? I don't know. In my mad moments, do you know what I was thinking of in my maddest moments? I was thinking potentially of even driving down to Nottingham, but their games night's on a Wednesday, which is not ideal for me. If it was on a different night, like if that was on a Thursday, then in my maddest moments, I might even thought of driving to Nottingham. But that would be like a 2.5-ish hour round trip, each Thursday night. But I was almost thinking of that because I thought that's probably the only place I could ever get to where you'd have a vibrant gaming club community. And then just one last little thought in terms of what Games Workshop can do about it, because some of it I think they're just stuck with. Like the high street situation, I think they're just stuck with. That's just unfortunate. The fact that they have mail order and you can get stuff mail order obviously acts against their own stores, but of course they have to have mail order because sometimes otherwise people just wouldn't buy the stuff at all. But of course that costs their store, so then the stores become less profitable, all the rest of it. The same issue you've got with any high street store. But in terms of the mail order, so I was talking about Hero Quest as being a game that introduced me to it because it was a self-contained game. You just buy this box, and it's got everything you need to be able to play the game. And the same with Advanced Hero Quest. Advanced Hero Quest was better because it also said to you, but you could buy other things from our range and use those in your games as well. And Warhammer Quest, better still. Self-contained box contained everything you needed to play, but if you want to expand your games, you can buy some models. You can buy a few models at a time and use them straight away, and that was all great. And Games Workshop has similar things now. I don't know about this Underworlds thing. It doesn't appeal. See, that's the thing. Those sort of games wouldn't appeal to me now. because I like the larger strategy-based games, so the fancy battle games. But then I was looking at Kill Team, so I got Kill Team, and actually, ironically, haven't played a game yet, but I've got some models. I've been helping people play games at our college. We've been introducing our college, but our college, which started a Warhammer club, wants to buy a copy of Kill Team. Now, we can't get one because it's sold out, and I know the person who's actually running this club there was saying that. And I'm just looking right now on their store, the Games Workshop store, online store. And sure enough, the box set that I have, because I got it as soon as it came out, temporarily out of stock online, which is that's a strange. I've noticed that a little bit on their web store as well, when it says temporarily out of stock online. I can understand a store being temporarily out of stock because they sold more than they were expecting to. They can't, especially these small stores I'm talking about, can't afford to have like loads of stock of it. So if it sells out, you have to wait till your next mail shot. But at the actual production facility at Nottingham, at headquarters, their mail order, that they run out. And for this to still be temporarily out of stock online suggests that it's been out of stock for a while, for like a month or so. So this is a box set of a game that is an ideal way to introduce someone to the hobby, because it contains everything you need to play those games. And all right, £80 for a game, but you can use those models and you can play that game for ages, but you can still add in new ones if you want, but you don't have to. You'd be able to play happily with someone else using everything that comes with that box. And it's a great starter way to get someone in without the store element. And yet they don't have stock of it. They can't sell you it. And there's just some aspects of the way that Games Workshop are doing things that I just don't think are helping themselves, and I don't understand why it is. Maybe someone else understands the reasons here, but how can it be that even the mail order has things that are unavailable for a significant amount of time, particularly a starter box set like this? Weird. But anyway, that's just the little story of my reintroduction to the stores. Not been wholly positive, I have to say, but part of it, as I say, I understand the reasons why. It is difficult. It's something that I just think is integral to Games Workshop's viability, unless they think of something different. I don't see any signs of them thinking of something different, but it's surely only going to get worse, because if the rest of the high street suffers, then the number of people that can potentially be walking into that store lessens as well. You're talking about increasingly people having to make special trips just to go to that store. Much less likely. Don't know. What do you think the future is going to hold? Let me know what your thoughts are below. Hope you enjoyed the video anyway. Little ramble. If you did, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. Later on in next week, I'll be going back to producing the sort of guide videos. I might sort of try and alternate here between sort of guide on strategy videos as well as just general discussion videos as well at the weekend. So let me know what you think about that as well. And until next time, I'll see you later.